It is February 18th, almost 19th, damn near midnight, and I'm sitting here recording. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. This is this is the first episode that's actually going to come out to the people. I've had some practice episodes here and there, of course, just to figure it out, see how I'm feeling, kind of thing, of course. But I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. Been doing podcasting for a few years, but it's still nice to get your bearings together before you release an episode to the public. We're a few days from spring training now. We got spring training games on Thursday. Just the Dodgers and Padres. Friday is when we officially get multiple live Major League Baseball games. So spring is in the air. Do y'all feel that? Do y'all smell the fresh air? You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Um, so what we're gonna do leading up to spring training, we're gonna do episodes based on Pacoda standings. The Pacoda standings, they change daily almost. So um I'm gonna say the day that I recorded as I did to start this one. So these are Pacoda standings as of Sunday, February 18th, 2024. So they can change over time. Pacoda, they do their numbers, they put them in a machine. I don't know how they come up with these, but we're gonna go division by division, and we're just gonna get the lousiest division out of the way, and that's the AL Central. That's going to be this episode. So we're going to cover all 5 teams. We're going to go through the rosters. We're going to go through the projections. We're going to figure this out together, guys. Did Pacoda get it right? That's coming to you next on From the Dish. All right, guys. So we're going to go reverse order here. We'll start with the lowest team. So we got the Chicago White Sox coming in. Um, so Pacoda has them winning 65 and a half. So that's damn near a 100 loss team. I think this is right on point. They might even be worse than 65, but I guess they're gonna factor in the division. They play in the AL Central. They think they can probably steal some games from some of these teams because a lot of these teams, according to their standings, aren't very strong. So I'm assuming that they're just gonna give some extra wins to Chicago here because 65 seems like a lot. This is a team that has no disrespect to the guys on the team, but they don't really have anyone. And they're also a team that's up in turmoil because we have no idea what's going to happen with some of their guys. Like, who's to say that this thing doesn't spiral out of control and all of a sudden Luis Roberts gone? All of a sudden, Dylan Cease, who's been in trade talks pretty much the entire offseason, he's gone. Because I don't see the ship turning around at any point during this season. I don't know how they muster up a competitive team here. I just don't see it. So, I'm sure they'll tear it down by the deadline in August and September. It's going to be tough on the South Side. It's going to be really tough because I'm looking at your team is currently constructed. Mind you, look at who you lost. You lost Mike Clevenger, who's still on the market, Elvis Andrews, Liam Hendricks, Tim Anderson, Tyler Naquin. These are guys that are still all on the free agent market, by the way. This is also a team that ranked 30th in OBP, 29th in OPS, 29th in runs scored, 29th in walks per nine for starters, 23rd in home runs per nine for starters. Yeah, this is a recipe for disaster, bro. I just don't see, and they lost guys. They haven't really added much. I'm looking at this team. All right, so they got some names. I will say that if there's one thing about this White Sox team, it's not the sexiest names, of course, but they got a couple guys in there that, yeah, you know, for a team that's gonna lose, projected to lose 100 games, I'm like, all right, they got a couple guys in here. There's a couple bright spots that I see in here. Maybe Andrew Benintendi, he bounces back. You know, we're looking at a guy who's had some down seasons in there. If we look at his 2023, there's a lot to be desired there. This is also a team, the White Sox are, a team that has had a lot of turmoil in terms of they just got a new GM, if I'm not mistaken. They had multiple reports come out about their clubhouse culture, and you're just not gonna have guys playing to their potential when there's all these alternate factors that are playing a role in this. I'm looking at Andrew Benintendi now. I mean, 326 OBP last year. That's just not gonna get it done. Um, but who knows? He's got a little bit of speed. I'm sure he's got something in the tank. He's got a deal that doesn't expire until 2027. I didn't know that. So are the White Sox kind of stuck with him for the next 2 seasons? And I don't know if stuck with him is the right word. He's more so stuck with them, considering the circumstance. But yeah, they got Benintendi at the top of that lineup. They got Andrew Vaughn. He's got some pop. He can get you some homers. That's a 20 homer guy. They got Luis Robert. I mean, he had a great year last year, but let's not forget that this is a guy who's still finding himself truly. Because outside of his season last year, this was a highly touted prospect, and it just seems like he hasn't really reached that full potential. Last year, he was a pretty damn good ball player. He had what many will say is his best season. I mean, he finally played over 100 games for the first time in his 4-year major league career. He popped 38 bombs. Um, his strikeouts are concerning, though. He's striking out almost 30% of the time. That's very concerning for Luis Robert. Um, but after that, you got Yoan Moncada. That's somebody that's a name, right? You got Eloy Jimenez. Those three guys right there. I remember like when these White Sox teams were supposed to be like AL contenders in 2021 or whatever it was, and man, have they fallen from grace? But Yoan Moncada, that's another guy. That's another guy. He played under 100 games last year. Maybe if you get him back on track, maybe he can turn things around and maybe he can return to his 2021 self where he popped off for, 412 slugging, over 400 slugging. I don't know, man. This White Sox team is just not very it's just not very encouraging. Eloy Jimenez, do you maybe trade him? Because I mean, everyone's a trade candidate at this point if you're on the White Sox, right? I mean, I would imagine so. If I'm the White Sox GM, yeah, you give me a call. I'm gonna see who I got over here, and maybe we can make a deal. Because at this point, I mean, you really have nothing to lose. I think White Sox fans are kind of tired of this. I'm sure White Sox fans would be cool with a rebuild. I think you just got to tear it down. I mean, get something back for the guys you got. Michael Kopech, that's a name. That's someone I had high hopes for. He hasn't panned out, but he's got the stuff. He's got the stuff, especially his fastball, especially his slider. I really like that mix. Um, he just hasn't found it. He hasn't put it all together yet. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery. Who knows? Because I mean, if we're looking at it, yeah, these numbers they look sad, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. So these White Sox, I agree with the projections. I mean, I don't see how they even get to 65 wins. I think that might be a lot, but again, Pacoda may be having them beating on some of these central teams that aren't very strong. Right now, the White Sox playoff percentage sits at 0.1. I think it should just be 0.0. I don't think there's any chance that they make the playoffs. There's not a world that they make the playoffs, let alone, we're talking about what, 65 games? I just don't see it. They're they're projected to allow 838 runs. That is the most in the American League. They're projected to give up more runs than Oakland, who we'll get to in another episode when we do a deep dive on the AL West and we talk about my Angels. And I may go on a mini rant then. I hope y'all are ready for some yelling when I talk about my Angels, but that's another story for another day. For now, White Sox 65 wins. I mean, I think they I think they might even win less than that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 60 win team. They might just win 60 games. And I mean, the reason I'm saying that is because about our next team, the Kansas City Royals, who Pacoda has at 70.8 wins. So it's about 71 wins. The Royals, 71 wins. I like what they did this offseason, the Kansas City Royals. For whatever the reasons are that they went for it after losing, what was it, 105 games or something, they decided to be buyers this winter. They were buyers. And it was an interesting approach, but it was nice. It was refreshing to see a small market team go out there and try to put a winner on the field, at least put an entertaining team on the field, at least give the fans something to look forward to. Granted, I mean, they're not going to be world beaters. They're not going to go out here and win a World Series or anything, I don't think. But I do like some of the pieces that they put together here. And of course, the Bobby Wood extension, I mean, that was a no-brainer. You knew it was coming. They had to do it. They found their guy and they locked him up. I think that that's exactly what you're supposed to do if you're the Kansas City Royals. Um, they didn't really lose any notable names. I mean, they lost Hunter Dozier, Jackie Bradley, Brad Keller, Matt Duffy, Zach Greinke. You know, not too much that you'll miss there. Not too much that you'll miss, I don't think. So, what do the Royals do? They're like, okay, we'll let all those guys walk, and then we'll just go and we'll sign some other guys. So, yeah, they brought in some guys. They brought in some guys, man. And I really like what they did. They brought in experienced major league pitching, some older guys that can maybe influence this young team. I really like what they have going on here. Again, I like it for a 70 win team perspective, according to Pacoda. I'm not saying that they out here going to win 90 games or anything like that. I don't see that happening. But they have the opportunity to be a team that may be interesting to watch, a team that they may be pesky. They may steal a couple wins from some teams. They got Cole Ragans at the top of the lineup, followed by Michael Waka. They got Seth Lugo, Brady Singer, Jordan Lyles. I mean, that's not the sexiest rotation, but you know they can eat up some innings. They got guys that can eat up some innings. Who's to say that these guys don't get you 140 innings, 150 innings each, which in modern baseball, I mean, you'll take that, right? So I mean, the rotation is nothing sexy, but I like it. If I'm a Royals fan, this is better than what we had. It's improvement. At least you're going in the right direction, right? We get to the lineup, and of course, it's headlined by Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, enough. There doesn't have to be anything else said about this guy. Matter of fact, I'm gonna look at his Fangraphs projections right now, just for the fun of it. Let's take a look at Bobby Witt Jr.'s projections. So they got him here 4.7 WAR. I'm not a big WAR guy. Y'all know that. I mean, people talk about WAR. People like WAR. To me, it's a flawed stat. But hey, they have him projected at almost a 5 WAR player. I think that's pretty cool. They've got him. They've got what? They've got him banging 29 homers, so 30 home run guy. He had 30 last year. Who's to say he can't do it again? And 30 in that ballpark is impressive. It's not easy to get him out of there. I don't know what his home road splits are. Maybe I can pull that up real quick and we could take a look. But yeah, that's not a easy place to hit him out of. So, you know, can he go for 30 again? I don't see why not. This is a guy who's got speed. Um, I just love his swing. I just love everything about Bobby Witt. He's just one of those guys that has it. Whatever it is, he has it. And if you're the Royals, You recognize that. I mean, we're going into what, year 3 now of Bobby Witt, is it? I mean, you gotta lock him up because he's only gonna get more and more expensive as the years go on. So I really like that they brought him back. And then they got Vinny Pasquantino. This is a guy that I've been watching during the offseason. This guy for a lefty power bat, my goodness, does this guy hit the ball hard. Vinny is an interesting player to look out for this year. I mean, this guy there's not a ballpark that can really hold him, I don't think. And he's got legitimate like 25, 30 home run power. Fangraphs has him at 22. I think that's a little light personally, based on what I saw from what I saw from the film that I watched. Granted, this is a guy who's only played, we're talking about 130 MLB games. This season, they project him to play about 136. So, I think if he plays 136 games, say he gets about 550 plate appearances, I think he can knock out 25 of them. None of the projections have him at 25. Steamers got him at 24. So I mean, what's a one home run difference, right? I mean, you get a lucky one that just carries through the wind or something, right? So I think that's fair. He's about a 25, 30 home run guy, lefty, um, and he's got some nasty pop. He's really, really got some nasty pop. Um, and he hits them both home and away. He hits home runs home and away. Um, he mashes righties a little bit better. He's got way more home runs versus righties than lefties. Yeah, this is an interesting guy, Vinny Pasquantino. And then they added Hunter Renfroe. They signed him. I think they gave him a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Hunter Renfroe. He played for my Angels, so I know what he's capable of. I mean, he's an okay player. Hunter Renfroe. You stick him in right. He's got a hell of an arm. We all know that. He may be able to bash for you. He can bash. He can sneak a couple home runs. It is a big park though. Again, so that's the thing with the Royals. It's so hard to put together a team that you think is gonna bash with the best of them just because of where they play. Um, but yeah, I mean the Royals on paper, they're not the sexiest team, like I said. Um, you know, Outside of what I said Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Hunter Renfroe. Um, I mean, you still got Salvador Perez there, but he's another year older now. He's going into his age 34 season. How much more gas do you think he has in the tank? You just don't know what you're gonna get from Salvador Perez. I still do see him as a viable 20 home run threat, you know, and he's still gonna strike out a ton. I think he's gonna strike out at about 20% of the time. I haven't looked at the projections. I could take a look, maybe 20, 25% of the time. Uh, but you know, he's someone that can be a leader for that team. He's the face. Well, Bobby Witt is the face, but Salvador Perez, he's been there for his entire career. He was there for the back-to-back World Series runs. This is someone that is clearly there for the vibes. I'm sure he's a great clubhouse guy. I haven't heard anything about Salvador Perez, but I mean, I can just imagine that he's a pretty cool dude. I wouldn't doubt it. And the bullpen, I mean, they added some bullpen guys too for sure. They got Will Smith, three-time World Series winner, three consecutive that is. They added Chris Stratton. I think that's a sneaky good pickup. Um, they got John Schreiber the other day from Boston. I mean, we'll see what he does. They got Nick Anderson from Atlanta. So I think that they've put together at least a serviceable team. This is a team that can go out there and compete, and I don't think they're gonna lay down and just get beat up. I know they lost 105 games last year. I know Pacoda has them projected at 71-ish right now. But I think they're man, it's hard to say that a team winning 70 games is low considering they only won what, 55 last year. So that's, a 15 game improvement. That's a 15 game improvement. So when I think of it that way, 70 feels right. I think they're going to be a 70 to maybe 73 win team because they'll beat up on Chicago a couple of times, I think. Once Chicago, I haven't looked at the schedule, but I would imagine they play Chicago in August and September. By then, I imagine the White Sox would be torn down. Kansas City could, get a couple from them, boost that 71 wins a little bit, maybe get to 73, 74 wins. That feels right for Kansas City. And if you ask me, that's an extremely successful season for them, considering they just won only 55 games last year. I like it. I like it. And if you're the Royals, whatever your motives are, a new ballpark, um, you see the Chiefs winning, you're getting jealous. I don't know. But I like what they've done. I think they'll be competitive, pesky, and they should at least be an interesting watch at the very least. Moving into our third team, we have the Detroit Tigers of Michigan. Don't ask me why I said of Michigan. I don't know. But what I do know is that Fangraphs has them projected at 74.7 wins. So we're talking about a 75 win team here. That now, okay. I've said it for a couple years now. I like the Tigers. I like what the Tigers are doing. I think this might be light. I think it might be light. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe it's not. Because I'm looking at the Tigers and I see a team, while yes, they're young, they're very young, they're interesting, they have potential. You get excited with prospects and their ceilings and them all coming together and playing well together and so on and so forth. And you can get lost in that. You definitely can get lost in potential. The thing with the Tigers for me is they don't really have anyone that is gonna that's been there, done that. Someone that's gonna create a culture, someone who's going to change this team, essentially change this franchise, take the team under their wing, take the face of this thing. We're thinking that's Riley Green right now, but that was supposed to be Javier Baez. And Javier Baez, I mean, since he's arrived in 2021, my God, what a disaster of a contract that's been. He in a contract, he just opted in it. He could have opted out after this season, but I mean, why would you opt out if you're Javier Baez and you just struck out, you know, 25% of the time, 30% of the time, I'm sure. I don't have the numbers up, but I'm sure. So if you're Detroit, you just hope you can get anything from Javier Baez. I'm looking at it now. I have it pulled up. Last year, he had a whopping 267 OBP. I'd say whopping jokingly, of course. And then in 2022, he had a 278 OBP. Yes. Does he still have some defensive prowess? Yes. Does he still have defensive IQ? He's got a glove. But I mean, at some point you got to hope that this bat gets a little bit better, and it's just not. It's no secret that Javier Baez is a free swinger. We all know it. Um if you're the Tigers, I mean, this is the guy that was supposed to be the guy that I'm describing. He was supposed to be the one to be able to take a young team, take it under his wing, be like, "Hey, look, I won a World Series in 2016. I know what it takes." But it's hard to listen to a guy when I mean, he's flailing at everything. He's flailing at everything. And it's just very hard to look at Javier Baez and assign him as the beacon of hope for this team. It just doesn't work. It's not like Salvador Perez with the Royals. That was what I was describing, and Javier Baez he just doesn't bring that to the table, unfortunately. So if you're the Tigers, I mean, that is your vet. That's your vet. That's the guy that you gave, what was it, $100 million? I want to say it was. They gave him um 6 150 or something like that, 6 140, something like that. I mean, at this point, you just have to hope that you get something from him. And I don't mean to beat up on the guy. So we're just gonna move on to Colt Keith, someone they did believe in, and someone that they did pay. Colt Keith, no major league experience. I watched some of this guy's film. Um, I do like what he brings to the table. I just don't know how it's gonna translate to the majors because I wasn't able to see enough. But yeah, they've got him coming up. They clearly believe in him. They gave him $100 million before he even played a game, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, this is a team that has some young guys, has some promise. Colt Keith is the face of that. They also have Spencer Torkelson. I like what he brings to the plate. They've got Kerry Carpenter. He's probably going to be platooning. He's a good player too. That's a guy that's got some pop. Kerry Carpenter. They've got him slotted in as DH. He's projected to have 20 home runs. He hit 20 home runs last year. I can see it. Now, I'd like him to cut down on some of his swing and miss a little bit, but when you're getting me 20 home runs and you're only playing 118 games, I can't complain too much. And he's projected to pretty much have the exact same season that he had last year. They got Mark Canha. They traded him. They traded for him, and they got Riley Green. So I like some of the names on here. Even Zach McKinstry. That's a name that we don't talk about. But even Zach McKinstry. Sorry, that I mean I don't hate it. I don't hate it. He's got a glove. He's got a little bit of speed. I don't hate it. So this Tigers team, I didn't even go over the rotation. I got to look at the rotation as well. I mean, I know they got Scuball at the top. I like Scuball. He's gotten better every year. I believe he's going into his, what is it, fifth season now, fourth season, fifth season. And he's progressively gotten better each and every year. That guy's really coming into his own, and he's really becoming an underrated starter in this league. I like him at the top of the rotation. They signed Kenta Maeda. They signed Jack Flaherty. Again, not the sexiest names, but Ken is he's a little older now, but he played for the Dodgers, so that's a guy that can, you know, talk to a young pitching staff and be like, "Hey guys, I played for the Dodgers. I was in the playoffs. This is what it's like. This is what we can do, so on and so forth." He was just in the playoffs with Minnesota last year. So, um, you know, that's the kind of guys that they have to add to this team now. So I really like that they brought him in. And Matt Manning, he's got some potential. He is untapped. He's got to get into it. This was a number 9 pick a few years ago for Detroit. So you hope that he's going to come around soon. I mean, you drafted him in 2016. You got to hope that he's going to come around now. We still haven't seen a lot of Matt Manning, honestly, but we got to see something, right? This is just a team that has some names. Bullpen isn't too shabby. They got Andrew Chafin in there. They just acquired him. They acquired Shelby Miller. Um, yeah, they got some guys in there. This is a decent team. Now, again, do I think that they're gonna go out there and be world beaters? No. Would I be surprised if they won the division? You know what? We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that because we still got 2 more teams to go. And I feel like this top 3 is kind of weird because they got Cleveland at 83.1 wins. Cleveland at 83.1 wins, 38.5 playoff percentage. They got in a 1-4 shot to win the division at 25%. The Cleveland Guardians. Honestly, I'm not high on the Guardians at all. Um, I just don't know how they're gonna score. I really don't know. And I'm looking at the projections now. They've got them scoring 729 runs, but only allowing 716. So the projections really favor their pitching staff. I mean, it's Cleveland. We already know they're going to pitch well. They still got Shane Bieber. They didn't trade him. They got Tristan McKenzie. That's a guy that I like, the uh, slender, hard throwing guy there. They got Tanner in there, Tanner Bibby. And they got Logan Allen and Gavin Williams to round out the rotation. That's a decent rotation. And then, the bullpen, they still got Clase in there. They've got Scott Barlow in there. They've got Trevor Stephan in there. They got Karinchak in there. I mean, I do like the pitching, but for me, I just don't know how this team is going to score. Obviously, Jose Ramirez is a stud. Josh Naylor, I feel like he's a little bit of an underrated guy. He brings some fire to the clubhouse. I really like the way he goes about things. And he's got that sweet, sweet lefty swing with a ton of pop in it. They got Andres Jimenez. He just won a gold glove not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Um, they got Stephen Kwan. Stephen Kwan is that is a nice player right there, man. He's got some bat to ball skills right there, and I really like what he does. He's got the speed too. He can field. I really do like Stephen Kwan at the top of that lineup. But even still, with these guys, I mean, and they got Kyle Manzardo, who's coming up. Their prospect that they got from Tampa. Um, Kyle Manzardo, he should be playing too. So we'll see. But I just don't know how they're gonna score frequently with this team. Um, if Kyle Mazzardo comes and he wrecks, then that's gonna change the entire complexion of the team because he is a power hitter. He is projected to hit 15 home runs in less than 100 games. They're looking at 400 plate appearances, 15 home runs. That might be a little light, but hey, look, the guy's got a little bit of pop, and I think that it'd be a nice addition to this lineup. Truthfully, the Guardians, they won 76 games last year, 76, and Pacoda has them getting to 83. So they think they're gonna play better. They think they're gonna play better. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I think they're a little high on the Guardians. They brought in Austin Hedges. Um, they brought in they have Bo Naylor. Um, yeah, man. I mean, I just don't see it. I just don't see it, Pacoda. Um, between them and Detroit, I mean, Cleveland's got proven guys. They've got Jose Ramirez. Detroit doesn't have a Jose Ramirez. So I understand. Is Jose Ramirez a 10 win, 9-10 win difference? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so. So those two teams are really complicated for me, especially Cleveland. Again, I don't see it. I think 83 is 500. I was going to say closer to 500. 83 is just about 500. They feel like a 500 team. Couple bounces go the other way. And then, that 83 could be 79. So I'm just not very high on the Guardians. I'm not very high on any of the teams in this division, truthfully. I mean, how could you be? But yeah, man, are they an 83 win team? I just don't see it. 83, I don't see. So, um, I'm not rocking with that Pacoda. My verdict on that one is under that. I think they'll get under that. And then obviously at the top here, the top team of the AL Central, they got the Minnesota Twins. Twins have a 71% chance to win the division, 78% chance to make the playoffs. They even gave them a 7% chance to win the World Series. The Twins can win the whole damn thing. Those are the third best World Series odds in the entire AL. We'll revisit that on other episodes because we're not done with the AL just yet. But we got Minnesota here. I was sleeping on this team for a long time. I'm not going to lie. During this offseason, they were pretty quiet. They didn't really do anything sexy. Um, they kind of just went about their business. They lost Sonny Gray. They didn't bring back Michael A. They lost Kenna to a division rival. Emilio Pagan, they lost him. I mean, this was just a team that had some losses, and I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid, but I get it. I get it. The AL Central's weak. The Twins have guys that are proven. They brought in Carlos Santana to fill in their first base void. That was probably the biggest void on this team. First base was just it's been sad for the last couple of years. So they brought in Carlos Santana to kind of stabilize things. I know he's a little bit older. He's entering his age 38 season, but you get a switch hitter. You could put him in the bottom third of that lineup if you'd like. And I think it just adds a nice little twist to the lineup. Um, they got rid of Polanco this offseason. So now they're going to platoon Julian and they're going to have, what's his name? Kyle Farmer. They're going to platoon those two guys. Julian killed righties. That'll be nice. You slot him against righties, and that's good to go. Obviously, there's Carlos Correa. He brings playoff experience. He's a champion. I just like the way that guy goes about his business. Max Kepler, I'm glad he's starting to get a little love now. I feel like he's been underrated out there and right for a minute. Byron Buxton, I mean, we all know the story on him. I mean, the guy was the number 2 overall pick for a reason. He has all the tools in the world. He's just got to stay on the field. That's the big question with him, as always. I get tired of saying it. I'm sure y'all get tired of hearing it, but that's just what it is with him. And then they got Royce Lewis, who really broke out last year. He only played, I think, like 80 games, and he really broke out last year. And he put the league on notice. This is a guy that battled 2 ACL surgeries, by the way. And he looks every bit the part. He's still only 24 years old, going in his age 25 season. Yeah, I mean, and that's just the lineup. If you want to look at the pitching staff, they got Pablo Lopez. He got Cy Young votes. They got Joe Ryan. He's a legitimate number 2. They got Chris Paddock, who's coming back from Tommy John. Maybe he can get you 130 innings. They got Joan Duran coming out of the bullpen. The guy throws 105. He's got a splitter that's 98, unhittable. They got Brock Stewart in there. They got Justin Topa from Seattle. I mean, yeah, this Twins team, I I'm just gonna give them their credit. I don't know what it was in my mind. I was thinking like, man, they're the Twins. The Twins never do anything. All they do is lose in the playoffs. Blah 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 blah. They didn't do anything to get better. I think for me, what I wanted from Minnesota, and clearly they feel completely different. They're comfortable with this team. But what I really wanted to see from Minnesota was I wanted to see a team who just won their first playoff series in 2 decades. I wanted to see them go out there and act like they have something. Act like they have a chance because the city is hype now. The city is hype. You won a playoff series. People are drinking the Kool-Aid. I think you got to bring in like another name, just another name to really take this team over the top so they sit amongst the American League's best. I mean, maybe bring in another starter. Bring in another starter. Really double down on your strength. Because what if Chris Paddock comes back from his Tommy John and I mean, I know I'm talking about a number 4 starter here, but say he comes back from his Tommy John and he just doesn't look the same, and then now you got a hole in fourth. I don't know how much DeSclafani's gonna do. So the bottom of the rotation's a little scary, but the bullpen is so good it might not even matter. But I would say go out there and get one more guy. I'm not saying go out there and sign Blake Snell or anything like that, but you get another solid pitcher, like mid-tier, solid number three. And then that says, yeah, like we're serious about going out here and trying to win this whole thing. Because why not? The playoffs are a crapshoot anyway. If you're the Twins, you think you're a shoe in, clearly, because you didn't really do much to add to your team in any way. So yeah, I mean, I think I just wanted a little more aggression from them, and they decided not to go that route, which is okay because this is a team that did win 87 games last year. They weren't aggressive enough for me, and I think that kind of stained them for me. But looking at the rest of the Central and Minnesota, I never said how much they were projected to win. PECOTA loves them. PECOTA has them at 88.9, so 89 wins. That puts them as a top 3 team in the AL. Sorry, a top 2 team in the AL. Again, we'll revisit this at the end of this, but that has them as a top 2 team in the AL. Sorry, no, top 3. It has them as a top 3 team in the AL. And if you've got a top 3 team in the AL, why not go out there and add a little bit more so you can compete with 1 and 2, and then distance yourself from 4 and 5? If that's what the standings are saying. Standings, the projections here, they're non-biased. It's all numbers. They put it in a sim, let the sim work its magic, and that's the number it spit out. So, is this a 90-win team? I can see it. I can see this being a 90-win team. So, yeah, I mean, for me, the only wild card for me is really just Cleveland and Detroit. I think you could swap those two because I think if their guys come out and their guys play to their potential and they all play well, they gel, and they have like this kind of like the Reds did last year, right? Where they just have this synergy to them. They just have this force, this pushing them, this youth movement, and the city gets excited. They get behind them, and I think Detroit can be a fun team, and they can get to second place in this AL Central, and Cleveland is third, and maybe Detroit sneaks in. I mean, I don't think the AL Central has 2 playoff teams, truthfully. That has a lot to do with the AL East too, honestly. But you know, maybe they're playing meaningful games in September. Detroit is. Why not? Them and Cleveland. Maybe a series against them is for the number 2 spot in the division. I can see that. So for me, I mean, Minnesota sits at the top. Chicago's at the bottom, of course. I do think Kansas City, again, they got to be a 4th place team. I really like what they did, and I liked how they were aggressive, but they still are a 4th place team. I don't see them playing meaningful games in September. And then I got Cleveland 3, Detroit 2. So um, I'm pretty much in agreement with PECOTA, except I would just swap those 2 spots. But other than that, I think they're pretty spot on. They have the Twins as a powerhouse in the American League. They have them as one of the best teams in the whole league. I'm looking at the whole standings now. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun series. This is gonna be a really, really fun series. This is only episode 1 of the division previews, and I'm having a blast. But I think that wraps up the Central, y'all. That just about does it. Not a very exciting division. Hopefully, what I said comes true and they end up having some meaningful games down the stretch in September, Cleveland and Detroit. That would just be cool for the division. That would just be cool for people who live in the Midwest. But overall, I mean, this division is just kind of there. So that just about wraps this one up. Thank y'all for listening to another episode, or actually the first episode of From the Dish. And we're doing our division previews and doing them versus the PECOTA standings. So first episode down, the jitters are gone.